What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 6, Thursday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you my top picks for the Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NFL Week 6. Let's take a look at this Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears. So at the quarterback position, you could play either one of these quarterbacks here tonight. For the Washington Commanders, you have Carson Wentz, and he's averaging 21.9 fantasy points per game on the season. He's getting an average of 3.4 rush attempts per game. He's going to be about 56% owned, projected at 16.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's 10,600 DraftKings salary. Vegas thinks there's going to be 38.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Commanders favored by half a point. So this should be a close game here, and the Chicago Bears have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing quarterbacks. Now, for only 600 more than Justin Fields, for a guy that's averaging 22 fantasy points per game on the season, I like my chances with Carson Wentz, but I do like both of these quarterbacks. So I like Carson Wentz here versus the Chicago Bears. Now, if you want to save a little bit of salary here and get a guy that has a better matchup, take a look at Justin Fields from the Chicago Bears playing the Washington Commanders, who have the 9th worst defense overall. They give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Now, Justin Fields only averaging 11.9 fantasy points per game on the season, but he scored 17 fantasy points last game, 11 and 7 the games before that. But the reason I like this pick is he's averaging 8.4 rush attempts per game. He got 8, 7, and 8 rush attempts in the last 3 games. So I think that's why people are looking to own Justin Fields here tonight. He's going to be about 71% owned. So I think people are looking at that rushing upside in a juicy matchup. Now he's projected at 15.9 fantasy points here tonight. He's 10,000 DraftKings salary. So I like Justin Fields here versus the Washington Commanders. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So the stud on the slate is David Montgomery from the Chicago Bears, and the Washington Commanders, they give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. David Montgomery has averaged 11.5 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 11.8 rush attempts per game and 2.5 pass targets per game. Now, he's going to be about 68% owned, projected at 13.4 fantasy points here tonight. He's 10,400 DraftKings salary, and he was out with an injury for 1 game, but he came back last week, and he scored 18 fantasy points off of 12 rush attempts and 4 pass targets. So I like David Montgomery here versus the Washington Commanders.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, now if you're looking to save some salary at the running back position, you got a lot of running backs for the Washington Commanders. You got Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, and J.D. McKissic. So out of those three guys, I like J.D. McKissic from the Washington Commanders. He's averaging 9.7 fantasy points per game on the season. And I like this pick because he's getting an average of 6 pass targets per game and 3.4 rush attempts per game. Only going to be about 24% owned, projected at 8 fantasy points here tonight. He's $6,400 DraftKings salary. And J.D. McKissic has scored 7, 4, and 9 fantasy points. He scored 9, 9, and 10 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 7, 4, and 9 pass targets on top of 0, 8, and 3 rush attempts. So you can see he gets more pass targets than he does rush attempts, almost double the pass targets as he does rush attempts, which is why I like this pick. And he's averaging 10 fantasy points per game, whereas Antonio Gibson only averaging 12 fantasy points per game, and he's much more expensive. So I'm going to take the salary savings here. So I like J.D. McKissic here versus the Chicago Bears. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So the stud on the slate is Terry McLaurin from the Washington Commanders, and he's averaging 12.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.6 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 92% of the snaps, gonna be about 37% owned, projected at 12.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's $9,000 DraftKings salary. And Terry McLaurin has scored 13, 4, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 6, 6, and 9 pass targets. So I like Terry McLaurin here versus the Chicago Bears. Now, the other wide receiver that I like from the Commanders is Curtis Samuel. He's averaging 15.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 9 pass targets per game and 1.6 rush attempts per game. He's on the field for 82% of the snaps, gonna be about 49% owned, projected at 12.3 fantasy points here tonight. He's $8,200 DraftKings salary. Curtis Samuel has scored 12, 8, and 13 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 8, 7, and 10 pass targets. So I think this guy makes a pretty good captain candidate. So I like Curtis Samuel here versus the Chicago Bears.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. Our NBA tools are awesome. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Now, if you're looking for a Chicago Bear wide receiver, take a look at Darnell Mooney. He's averaging only 5.5 fantasy points per game on the season. He's getting an average of 4.2 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 91% of the snaps. Gonna be about 39% owned, projected at 10.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's $7,600 DraftKings salary. Darnell Mooney has scored 7, 13, and 4 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 5, 5, and 6 pass targets. Now, he's got a fantastic matchup here. The Washington Commanders giving up the second most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So I like Darnell Mooney here versus the Washington Commanders. Now, if you're looking to save some salary at the wide receiver position,
You could go with a guy like Economist Street Brown or Dante Pettis. I think those two guys are in a decent spot here. Both of them got great matchups, and they're only getting 2 to 3 pass targets a game for the past couple of games. Not much production, but they are both pretty cheap. Dante Pettis, only $1,800 DraftKings salary. If you're looking for a deep sleeper pick, where Equanimous Street Brown is $4,800 DraftKings salary. They're both going to be about 12% owned. Now, Street Brown is probably going to get more pass targets. He's been on the field for 79% of the snaps, but I like both those guys if you're looking to save some salary at the wide receiver position. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. For the Chicago Bears, you have Cole Kmet. He's only averaging 3.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 2.4 pass targets per game. But he is on the field for 90% of the snaps, going to be about 23% owned, projected at 6.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's $5,200 DraftKings salary. Cole Kmet has scored 9, 5, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 4, 3, and 3 pass targets. So I like Cole Kmet here versus the Washington Commanders. Now, Logan Thomas is out, so if you're looking for a Washington Commanders tight end, take a look at John Bates. He's averaging 3.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 2.8 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 14% owned, projected at 5 fantasy points here tonight. He's only $3,000 DraftKings salary. So remember, he's probably going to get a couple extra targets with Logan Thomas being out. And he's super low salary. And he put up 7 and 6 fantasy points in the last 2 games. So I think there's some potential here for a sleeper pick. So I like John Bates here versus the Chicago Bears.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.